June 6, 2024 of the Romeo Planning Commission. We'll begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please, Cindy.
Fowler is excused. Grandstaff?
Here.
Hale?
Here.
Hall?
Here.
Minton?
Here.
Bill Parker's excused. Justin Parker said he would be late. Stegner?
Here.
Webb?
Here.
Okay.
Then we move on to approval of tonight's agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended agenda as emailed to us.
Second. Motion before us is to approve the amended agenda as emailed to us, excuse me. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, Cindy. Approval of the meeting minutes from May 2nd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion is to approve the meeting minutes from May 2nd, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous again. Public forum. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say to the planning commission of just about any nature? Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, number 6, move on to unfinished business. We're gonna have a site plan review for 209 North Main, 2701-35381-021, Ms. LeVar will give us a review.
At the May Planning Commission meeting, I presented a site plan review for 209 North Main Street. The site plan had been tabled because at the time, based on the language in the village ordinance, the Planning Commission had asked the applicant to obtain a variance due to the distance of their proposed parking agreement being more than 300 feet away from the location it was intended to serve. Since then, the applicant has decided to forego that proposed parking area and instead participate in the city's payment in lieu parking program. And correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy, but I believe they have made payment already.
Yes.
So that was the only item that, that caused the Plan Commission to table the site plan. Therefore, since that has been resolved, I do recommend approval of the site plan since the parking is now taken care of by the or payment in lieu of parking plan.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. So is that a one-time fee?
I don't have what the board passed in front of me, but it is whatever the board approved of.
My understanding is yes, and it's the lower value until October 31st.
So will the fee, so it's one-time fee and he won't have to pay it again?
It's just to meet the criteria.
Okay.
It gets him
That's-
around
That's what I
it
understand.
gets him through the site, gets him through site plan, basically.
And so they don't need to go before the ZBA, or we don't need to hear from Mark Clark as a result of those
Because the
changes.
ZBA was for the proposed private parking agreement, and now that they're not doing that and they're participating in the payment in lieu program, and their parking is meeting the zoning ordinance requirements.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan then. Anybody?
Second.
Mr. Grandstaff seconds. Motion before us is to approve the site plan for 209 North Main. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimously approved. I should have said this earlier, but because we have people here waiting on us, I'm going to move some things from new business up to unfinished business, beginning with special land use, 273 Chandler, bed and breakfast. Karen will review that.
The applicant has submitted a special land use request for a bed and breakfast at 273 Chandler Street. This is located in the R1 Single Family District, and is located north of 32 Mile Road. The site is approximately 1.53 acres and contains a main residence, a carriage house, and a pavilion. 9 individual suites and 1 family suite are shown on the main residence floor plan, as well as various lounging, dining, and entertainment areas. The carriage house floor plan shows dining and sitting areas. A total of 14 parking spaces have been provided on site. I provided the height and area and placement requirements for the R1 district. The applicant, or new construction is not proposed. The structures meet the setback requirements of the district, except for the shed. Lot coverage and building height have not been provided, though any deviation from the standards here would be considered a existing nonconformity for all the existing buildings on site. Bed and breakfast establishments are subject to the following. The rooms utilized for lodging purposes shall be part of a primary residential use and shall not have been specifically constructed for rental purposes. The applicant needs to confirm that this standard is met. There shall be no separate cooking facilities used for the bed and breakfast rooms. This standard is met. The residence shall be occupied at all times. The applicant needs to confirm this standard will be met. Sufficient off-street parking has been provided to meet the requirements of the existing family structure as specified in section 46-613, as well as 1 parking space per double occupied rooms. The applicant has provided 14 spaces in a 90-degree parking layout, though the dimensions of individual spaces and maneuvering lanes have not been provided. A typical 90-degree layout has space measuring 9 by 20 feet with maneuvering lane of 22 feet. The applicant should provide further details to ensure adequate access for patrons. Signage shall comply with the requirements of section 46-573. No signage has been proposed at this time. This will be a separate administrative review. And adequate lavatory, bathing facilities, and kitchen facilities for the lodging rooms shall be provided as per the requirements of the county health department or appropriate regulatory agency. The applicant needs to confirm this standard will be met. At the time of this review, the applicant needs to provide more information to ensure that standards for bed and breakfast establishments are met, aside from the special land use criteria that is also considered when reviewing a special land use.
Questions or comments from commission members? Okay, this is a special land use, so we have to go through all of those things that the state requires.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I do have just a couple of questions. There's a garage event space. Will the event space be strictly used by the people who are occupying?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a capacity?
Pardon?
Is there a capacity on the event space? How many people can?
We weren't planning on event space at this point, we're just doing, bed and breakfast.
All right, I just asked because it's labeled garage event space, so, yeah, yeah.
Okay, for special land,
Was it,
go ahead.
yeah, based on that, isn't that part of the reason that they didn't allow what they allowed at the other bed and breakfast in town? At the Brab House, was they wanted to have an event center, and does that not comply with the ordinances?
question to me?
No, it was to the commissioner or
It doesn't
planner.
say under bed and breakfast establishments, it says nothing about events.
But an event center or events, I think they wanted to have like a tea room and showers and stuff like that at the Brab House, and that was the
Yeah.
setback for that was that you can't do that in a residential.
I don't.
So that's
recall
where the
that one.
concern would arise.
Karen?
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with that situation. I'm not sure when that.
I mean, a bed and breakfast is not an event center. You can't have events, you can't have stuff going on like that, and that's also the issue with and why it wasn't allowed with the church being.
Again, I only asked the question because it says events.
Yeah,
So
so,
that's the only reason I asked the question.
So is there an event center?
Well, it's space that you can use other than a garage. If there was a meeting or something that people were having that was there, if you had guests come in to meet with them while they're staying there or something, that was, I had no idea it was even on there, quite frankly.
So that you can't do, right?
yeah, you can't. I mean, it's a bed and breakfast. It's simply that you can't have events, you can't have gatherings and stuff like that. That what defines an event center. I mean, it's not just parties, it's events. So that's,
If,
So it has to be made clear that you're not gonna have any events there since
Okay, well,
it is
that's-
called an event center.
All right, well, it's not an event center, it's, that space was in the event that there was, someone that, let's say the family took the whole house, for a week or something like that, and they would have, people there, that they were their guests, I'm not, I didn't even know the architect put it on there, this was done by our architects, and they must have thought it was acceptable for your special land use. But we could cross that off because we can live without that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just, number one, want to say thank you very much for saving that structure in our village. It's a beautiful part of the village of Romeo, and I appreciate the effort you have put into this. Making it a bed and breakfast is a wonderful thing. I am, this is something that is helping the village. And I want to be positive about doing everything we can. If someone is going to have a tea party or some sort of activity, that to me is really insignificant as far as I am concerned. This is helping the village, and I think I understand what you're saying about what happened previous to this. There was a lot of things going on, and I don't want that to interfere or influence how we decide what we're going to do here this evening. This man has made an effort to restore a beautiful piece of Romeo, and I think we should help him as much as we can without nitpicking every little.
Chair, if I could address, I agree, but you gotta think about this. What if this was your backyard? What if this was next door to you? A bed and breakfast, I get, is an approved special land use in the R1, but event centers are not, right? I don't know if you field almost weekly, multiple weekly phone calls from neighboring people around the church and how they're operating and the complaints that I get from that. Currently, this property that we're discussing is holding events as a residential. They might be charity or they may be not. And it's concerning. It's an R1 district. And I understand business is coming to town and profiting, and I'm for it if it's zoned properly. If we're just gonna allow the R1 to be overrun with event centers here and there, think about if it's next door to you. And if you're gonna want that to happen in your backyard. Tea party's one thing. What if they're gonna have a wedding 3 nights a week till midnight, 2 in the morning? It's different. That's why you have residential, that's why you have commercial, that's why you have different zonings to protect your residents and your businesses as it moves forward.
I have a church on the back of my property, and they have events all the time, and they have weddings, and it is really not a problem for me. I don't know. I'm telling you how I feel about
Yeah.
it.
I mean, yeah, we've got zoning, we've got ordinances for a reason. And if we're just gonna let them fly out the door, why are we sitting here?
Mr. Chair?
So, yes,
I-
go ahead.
I mean, we're here, in my opinion, we're here to look at this as a bed and breakfast. If they're not asking to be an event space, if they tried to open as an event space, that is part of the village to police that. But the question is whether this is a bed and breakfast. They're asking if they're gonna be a bed and breakfast, they're not asking for an event space. If they expand into being an event space, that is where the village polices it. Correct? So, I mean, denying a bed and breakfast because of a wording in here that he already said he would remove, I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's
The
what I
vil-
saw,
I mean,
was a print that said
as you had
events.
said previously, the Brab House tried to expand without proper permitting, I guess, I don't know, I was a kid when that happened, and it was shut down. I would assume something very similar would happen in this scenario if they didn't ask for the proper approval. But now they're asking to be a bed and breakfast.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Okay.
my review was based on just the information I had at the time of my review. It looks like the applicant has a presentation that they'd like to make, so maybe we allow the applicant some time to make their presentation. It might answer a lot of the questions and concerns that we all might have about this.
Good.
Okay, sounds good.
All have the same information in your packets. I think I can speak loud enough.
I think you can.
You can hear me? Good. I really am responding to the planner's list of items, and one we're, applying to the board for special land use for bed and breakfast. And the planner's report was highlighted in the areas that we have to answer questions. So I'll answer her questions, and then you can ask any that you want, if that's okay. Number one, we plan on meeting all the standards that are necessary for the bed and breakfast. We can assure you of that. We've done all the other things in restoring the house and bringing it back. By the way, Bill, thank you very much for your comments. It was very painful to accomplish this. And here we are now, 2.5 years later.
I toured that place before
Yeah.
any work had been done, so
Yeah, it was pretty rough. 38 30-yard roll-offs out of there, plus everything that was sold, everything that was taken away to the landfills. Unbelievable. Anyhow, that's another story. It will always be occupied by a manager of the facility. Someone will be living there all the time. That was one of the items. The next item that's really significant is parking. Parking always is. I've been around the commercial business for a long time. So the architect designed this with 20-foot spaces, probably 24 in between, which is only 22 in your area. But in other spots, we've used 24. I don't have a scale to it, but I measured today from the building to the fence. There's 75 feet there. We only need 62. So there's 13 feet from the pavement to the fence for that to be accomplished. The next item was all of the rooms. All of the rooms have their own bath. This is first floor. There's just one that'll probably be the manager's room, and then upstairs. Each of them, and you've seen that, each one has its own bath facility in all of them. And I provided all that, yeah, you guys have it all, good. And then, I've hired the same consultants that are Deanna and Associates. They're architects and engineers in the same facility. So they have engineered this, and I worked with Mr. Bomarito on this to make sure that we had the proper, and they would not let me get away with cutting any corners. If you've been inside the building and you see the truss that had to be built to hold the roof up, and you know, I argued with them a little bit about that, but they said they won't sign off without it, so we did. And the garage space, for example, I don't know why I'm going off into this, but it's not important, but it is. We put steel beams in this garage that were never there. And you know, they say they don't build them like they used to. Well, thank goodness they don't, because there were some just horrible things that were done in that house when it was built in the 1800s. They had a 21-foot span in the dining room, and you'd walk in there and the floor would shake, the china would rattle in the cabinets. But anyhow, we've resolved all of that with these guys are on top of things. They're really good, and they're following through with us, what's on that. So all of the things that you're looking for to occur in the development of this is not gonna be a fly-by-night operation. It's gonna be top drawer rooms. It's gonna bring a place for visitors to Romeo can be proud to come there. And once the word gets out, you'll be getting people from other areas come in here just for the experience, along with the historic value of downtown Romeo. So with your help and your approval tonight, we can move forward. Thank you. Any questions?
So you did a lot of work in this,
Yes.
in the structure.
Yeah.
Was it complete?
Oh, it's not done inside. I stopped with structural and we finished.
So what we're looking at isn't currently finished?
No.
This needs to be framed out yet and done?
Yes. What I did is I left it because we felt that the best thing, this is for one person to buy as a residential home. And if you do the whole thing finished, the person comes up, boy, I really like it, but. So we stopped, this first one, yeah. We stopped finishing this area and the foyer. Furnace, electric, plumbing. We only did one bathroom because we didn't know where these other places were going to be. And it's now ready to be finished. And this is the way it's drawn up to finish the house. that it'll at least fulfill your requirements for each room to have a bath, and the questions that were on here, adding to the parking, because the parking situation in the driveway is pretty rough, so we're gonna redo that. Any other questions?
I mean, I have one that's specific to this, like the walkway, the old walkway back to the fields. And all on it. Yeah. 'Cause it's between the
catwalk?
gray house, yeah, the catwalk.
That is,
I know, but well, I was under the impression that when
It's the
the
village,
school went away,
the village owns it,
the village owns it now?
yes.
yeah. Yeah, that's 3 feet of property that came from this property,
I guess I'll
3
have to
feet
ask
from the other
Questions
side.
about that to them.
And I don't know what happened between the village and the school.
The school determined that if it didn't go back to the original owners from when it was donated, it was the school's property. The school came to the village, I'm gonna say 2018, and asked if we'd acquire it, because they had no purpose for it, because
They
the
didn't.
junior high was coming down.
That's incorrect. It was when I had the property and it was under
It
construction.
was 2020, I'm sorry, 2020 or 2021. It was, because it was after I was on the council, so
Yeah,
you're correct. It was,
Even further than that, because it was during, it's been 2.5 years. In the last 2.5 years that occurred, because we tracked down the 2 women and had them agree with us, and they were coming in with an affidavit that they wanted that property like their father wanted it or grandfather wanted it to go back to the 2 property owners, and the previous regime went in and made a deal, this is my opinion of what happened, with the school board, because they got to keep the village happy. Next thing you know, it's done. But, and that hurt
Yeah, the school.
my ability to sell it as a house. Because that trail there there's no reason for it. It was there for a school, the school's gone. But anyhow, that's not the issue at hand.
yeah, the school determined it was theirs.
Sorry to bring it up.
It was theirs
And they didn't
until
want
they
it.
tore the school down. Then it became, the deed was restricted, it would go back.
Yeah, and that, but deed
The
restrictions
deed
are
restriction expired.
expired, yeah,
Marketable title removes them after a
Yeah.
certain amount of years,
so.
which is why the school itself can be sold.
So they're saying that there's a statute of limitations on a deed restriction?
Yes,
Okay, so the ones that the Catholic Church puts on property has a limit?
as long as they're owned by the same person for over 40 years, and the school entity.
Yeah.
The school district
Okay.
owned it for excess of 40 years, then they expired.
Because everything the Catholic Church puts on, they have a deed restriction when they sell into their property.
Okay, let's, time to consider these.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I have a question. It was brought up by our building official. So, is it, am I correct that, for a bed and breakfast, the owner has to be the resident, who is the innkeeper on site, or the innkeeper, the bed and breakfast has to be their residence?
As we read it, it simply has to be occupied by someone other than guests to manage the facility. That's the reading of ordinance.
But the Michigan, definition of a bed and breakfast versus a hotel, or?
That wasn't, I can't answer that. I've never read that.
I think we go for just a little more discovery, because I remember there was language where you have to have, the resident have to be the one that lives there and offer a bed and breakfast with no other monies exchanged, no gift shops in there, they can offer breakfast and that's it. And when I remember, it was residents owned, and I think we should talk to Mr. Clark to get to know more clear.
We might have to get, because my understanding, it might be a little different, is that if it is a manager that is managing the facility, it has to be their permanent residents, their full-time residents. It can't be they're there from hours,
It's their residence, but it doesn't have to.
but
be
I could be mistaken.
And we're not sure, that's why
Yeah.
you should probably just check with legal, but it's very possible it could be the manager that lives there full-time. But from what I remember from past, it had to be the owner that owns the house that resides in it and offer a bed and breakfast. But we need to check with,
there's a state statute, yeah.
Breakfast can be too. So I think it just should be looked at, 'cause I don't really see them go through any problems later.
You did say that there would be a manager on
Yes.
site at all times.
And living there, that would be their permanent
And I think
residence.
that's where the key is gonna be, where they live and reside there, but
It's their permanent
not
residence,
100%
that's,
sure. There is some language regarding that in the state law of what a bed and breakfast can be.
and that's where the first floor
I've been in,
bedroom is set up for them.
I personally have been in numerous bed and breakfasts throughout the state and around Traverse City.
Yes.
And half of the ones I stay in are owned by some kind of conservancy, and therefore they can't be owned by a primary resident because they're owned by
By
a conservancy.
And there's no other, nothing else is exchanged in there, just the bed and the breakfast, right?
Yeah,
It's very possible. I remember, when we were going through definitions on other ones, that there's something to do with the resident having to be the one living there, that's full-time, and I wasn't sure, I'm not about ownership. But I thought, that's the way I understood it the last time we had researched it. Just wanna make sure that whatever they decide, meets all the.
Well, I would think that if that were the case, that the ordinance would say the owner must reside, not that it's, because I would not have gone this far, because I'm not gonna live there.
Right.
and I've always dealt with caretakers. And
Pardon?
I've always dealt with caretakers in bed and
And
breakfasts.
the caretaker just has to be a
Resident.
caretaker residing there.
Right,
That
Right.
separates that from a hotel.
right.
And that will be,
Whereas a hotel has a rotating staff, et cetera.
Right, and the only other thing is that would go with that is if that the caretaker's the one that resides there. And again, I'm not 100% sure, I'm just saying, remember there was some issue before with that. There can't be any other exchanges of anything except for offer a bed and a breakfast. They're not supposed to have gift shops or anything else. That was the last interview I got, but that's been some years back now.
Mhm.
Because anything else becomes into another use.
Right, it's a business, yeah.
Right, so the bar won't be a cash bar.
well, our plan is to have a manager that lives there permanently, changes the sheets, does the breakfast, the whole Magilla. So, and they pretty much have to live there and be able to take the people in, get them out, and so on.
And
So
we
your plan,
understand-
if this goes, is to finish the renovations.
Pardon me?
So if you get bed and breakfast usage, that you'll finish,
We'll be applying for permits to finish it, yeah. In the fashion that you have in front of you,
And you understand the event space can't be,
take it off.
and that means like, even if somebody
Sorry?
rents the whole house and they have a conference, that can't happen in the event space because of the fire codes and everything that are
Yeah,
involved with
that
all
was,
that.
I was surprised it was on there, I didn't even know, I didn't see it. Shame on me. It was not on the
Well, I
table.
mean, it seems like a reasonable thing to put on there, but as soon as you put it on there, then it becomes a whole nother issue.
I could have sold this to people that wanted to build a bed and breakfast when I first started, but the chaos that occurred on Van Dyke with the Kellys was, close to me. And, because I had used the facility, and I think maybe the first New Year's Eve, our family all had an evening there, New Year's Eve, and had a New Year's Eve party for the whole family. And that may have been the beginning of the end for them, but I don't know what else happened. But I said, no, you can't do it, you can't do it. And then when I read the ordinance just recently, I said, yeah, you can have a bed and breakfast, there's what the ordinance says. So, but the event center is not what our intentions are, it's bed and breakfast, and it can survive on that basis.
All right, well, in the absence of any citations of state law that are contrary to local ordinances, I guess we can move forward with the consideration of special land use, unless anybody has any objections, and I don't hear any. So there are certain review standards before we can grant a special land use. 8 to be precise. And the planning commission votes on each point. So,
I'll sit down and review.
so, yeah, so we'll just move forward with that. And first consideration, number 1, the proposed special land use shall be of such location, size, and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding neighborhood and/or vicinity and applicable regulations of the zoning district in which it is to be settled. All in favor of that?
Yes.
Everybody?
I'm not.
Okay, Mr. Parker is not in favor. The proposed use shall be of a nature, number 2, the proposed use shall be of a nature that will make vehicular and pedestrian traffic no more hazardous than is normal for the district involved, taking into consideration vehicular turning movements in relations to routes of traffic flow, proximity, and relationship to intersections, adequacy of site distances, location and access of off-street parking, and provisions for pedestrian traffic with particular attention to minimizing child-vehicle interfacing. All in favor of that? All agree?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay. Mr. Parker is,
It's based on what we're seeing.
yeah. Number 3, the proposed use shall be designed as to the location, size, intensity, site layout, and periods of operation of any such proposed use to eliminate any possible nuisance emanating therefrom which might be noxious to the occupants of any other nearby permitted uses, whether by reason of dust, noise, fumes, vibration, smoke, or lights. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Did you vote positively?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4, the proposed use shall be such that the proposed location and height of buildings or structures and location, nature and weight of walls, fences, and landscaping will not interfere or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings or unreasonably affect their value. All agree?
Aye.
Where am I? Number 5, the proposed use shall relate harmoniously with the physical and economic aspects of adjacent land uses as regards prevailing shopping habits, convenience of access by prospective patrons, continuity of development, and need of particular services and facilities in specific areas of the village. All agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous on that. The proposed use is necessary for the public convenience at the proposed location. All in favor of that?
Yes.
They should strike that.
Yes.
The proposed use is so designed, located, planned to be operated that the health, safety, and welfare shall be protected. All in favor of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone. And finally, number 8, the proposed use shall not be detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood within which it is to be located, nor shall such use operate as a deterrent to future land uses permitted within the zoning district, and shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. Everybody agree to that?
Yes.
Vote on that. Okay. All right, I guess then special land use is granted.
Would appear to be.
Is that your motion?
I think we have to motion it because,
I don't think we need to motion it, do we?
yeah, I
Okay.
don't know.
Well, it won't hurt, so who wants to make a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion that we grant the special land use.
Second.
I'll second.
Mr. Webb seconded. All in-
Discussion?
Pardon me?
Discussion?
Well, we kind of made the motion.
And second, then there's discussion.
Okay.
Right before a vote. So a couple of reasons I was not up with everything is based on the first requirement that he explained. It says rooms utilized for lodging purposes shall be part of a primary residence, resident use, and not have been specifically constructed for rental purposes. And I'm pretty sure he just said that the sole purpose of building this out was for a bed and breakfast.
Correct. That's
Right, and then we talked about vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, and the site plan that we're looking at has a tree basically right on the street, or a bush, that would, I think we just talked about the setbacks of stuff for the clear view from driveways, so that doesn't meet,
Isn't that an existing tree?
I'm not sure. But if we're,
Off the drive? I think it's an existing tree.
How old is the tree?
yeah, I don't know, I'm seeing a bush or a tree or something
Tree.
on a site plan.
Respond to that, or am I not supposed to speak now?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, yes.
Go back to this one.
Tree.
Oh, were you speaking of this tree?
Yep,
There are some trees along the street, but that's a streetscape, and there's plenty of view in and out of there. Plus, the road on the other side has it's extra wide right in front here. The curb is another car wide where the school used to be. Now, whether that gets changed in the future, who knows? But right now, that's not a problem at all, ingress and egress. And visibility's great there. It's
yeah, I'm seeing something on a site plan that, no measurements, I don't know if it's a bush, if it's a tree. It's clearly, looks like it's right on the driveway, right on the sidewalk,
Well,
which,
it's not on the driveway or the sidewalk. Sidewalk's down here, see where sidewalk is here? This is the drive here, and there's some trees in it, we've taken a lot of them out. If it's a problem, I'm not gonna have it, I'm gonna take it out.
yeah.
You know, I mean, that's, and if you need a final plan before occupancy, that's another issue. I'll make sure that it's right for you. There's something else you had said also, Mr. Parker.
Yeah, I mean, you said it was constructed for this purpose,
No,
and
it's
it clearly
constructed-
says that
It's
it,
constructed as a home, and the way a home gets built is the person that wants it. And it's no different than any other home, bedrooms, kitchen, laundry facilities, and all that. And this house hasn't been finished yet, and for those reasons, we're doing it, you know, I mean, if someone could want a house just like this, you know, because in the future, if this isn't successful, it's gonna have to be sold to a person. So it's finishing a house is what it amounts to.
And when I read that language, I was under the impression that it wasn't gonna be, we were not allowing long-term rental agreements like an apartment complex. That's how I read it, and
no, I read it
Different
that
ways.
you're not building something to be used as a rental property, as a bed and breakfast or a hotel or whatever. You're not constructing it, a bedroom, every bedroom has its own bathroom for the sole purpose of using it for that. It's, you've taken an existing house and operating a bed and breakfast out of it, where you might have a shared bathroom
right.
in some of them, which I go to a lot also, right? And
Yeah.
that's how it is very often. And
I just read
if
it
it's
differently.
been repurposed and built to accommodate that, you know, with a large garage that if it's not a residence, it's gonna be used for something. I just don't think it meets that standard.
Any other comments? Well, we have a motion before us to grant the special land use for 273 Chandler. Mr. Webb seconded. Okay, all in favor of granting a special land use?
Aye.
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 Mr. Parker?
No.
No. Okay, so Mr. Parker was the only,
And ladies,
oh yeah, we have
Oh, you?
Lisa.
I thought you were with her.
Thank you. I would also like to thank you for restoring it.
Appreciate it.
You've done a beautiful job.
All right, now, site plan review, 111 South Rawls, professional business offices, Karen Millar. She runs out.
It's not you. Right.
For 111 South Rawls, which is located in the CBD district, the applicant has submitted a site plan for a proposed professional office, a professional/business office. The site has remained vacant for some time, previously indicated to have retail use, then used as an office residential unit in 2000. Interior structure and alterations occurred in the past without village inspection. The current owner is in the process of bringing the building into compliance. Professional and business offices are a permitted use in the district, provided that for any building located and fronting on Main Street, such uses are above the ground floor. Since this building is not located or fronting on Main Street, office use is permitted on the ground floor. Total square footage of the site is 3,700 square feet. Square footage of the building is 3,450 square feet. The head building is 2 stories and 30 feet tall. The site meets the district area height and placement regulations. The proposed use needs to follow the parking requirements of the CBD district, which would be 1 space for every 300 square feet of gross floor area. This will require 12 spaces total, with 25% required on site. The proposal shows 5 spaces would be provided, including 1 accessible parking space on site. Parking space measurements exceed the village minimum of 8 by 20. The remaining 7 spaces would be obtained through participating in the village's payment in lieu option. Based on the above review, I recommend approval of the site plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan for 111 South Rawls.
Second.
The motion before us is to approve the site plan for 101,
111.
excuse me, 111 South Rawls. Second?
Andrew, second.
Oh, you second, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, what's next? Okay. All right, I got arrows going everywhere. Item 3 on unfinished business, property maintenance guidelines workshop request. Mr. Bomarito. Your turn. You have a request
Yes.
of guidelines workshop.
Yes, couple workshops,
All
actually.
right.
Like for the first one you're talking about is the property maintenance.
Property maintenance,
That's tied with the short-term rentals.
right,
The village would consider that.
yes. I would like to see if we could put together a workshop with myself, the planner, and any one of the planning commission members, all of you, or just certain ones that might want to volunteer. I think I would like to see a workshop to help me come up with criteria. And some of it's going to be already, mandated by code anyway, but an ordinance, but I'd like to see a workshop together, because some of the language that I was reading can be, turned into an ordinance here. So that's what I'm just recommending, if we can put a workshop together.
Would this be an after business hours kind of thing?
Well, I'm going to do it on my time. I don't care. I'm just
Okay.
want to find a way to help out the best we could to come with the best solution we can. So it helps everybody, the people that want to do them, and then our residents and, public health and safety. That's our main objective. But I honestly think we should put a workshop together, because when I read the original draft, there was some things in there that were like code items that looked to me like that were from the, modern day building code. When you take an existing structure, and that's the way it was approved at the time it was approved, the way you keep it, where we can use the property maintenance code, and that's for existing structures. And whatever's in there, we could use that as a guideline. But again, any other criteria they wanna put in there, like how many you're gonna limit it to in the village, how many? I know some municipalities are having some, where they, a certain amount of them are gonna be allowed. And there's a few other items that I don't have off the top of my head that would be addressed.
I'll volunteer for that.
Good.
Yeah, I'll volunteer too.
Perfect. Anyone else that would like to volunteer to be on that committee?
If it's a workshop, I think we could all be there, right?
Strictly, it's gonna be a voluntary, like I said, we just,
Yeah.
I think it would be good to have a lot of input from whoever to see, you know. Karen, you're gonna be involved in that workshop.
Yes, I was gonna say, you know, as of now, I don't think we have anything at our next planning commission meeting. Would it make sense to maybe have the workshop for the July meeting, if that works with everyone?
If we don't have anything.
As of now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beginning of June, so we'll see what happens, but.
It'll be the second Thursday, right? Correct? Okay. I should still be here. I leave Friday, so.
Fair enough.
Then everyone would be here, that'd be great. Like I said, I just wanna do it so I can help out, give my input and have everybody's input, just like I said, somebody might see something that someone else doesn't see. And there really should be an ordinance put together for short-term rentals. I mean, almost, I know,
Even long-term
Ira
rentals.
Township, I worked there too, since I retired from Washington, and they're putting together one too, and actually, Steve Cassens is there, he's helping with that one too, and there's gonna be, again, certain guidelines put on them. And you know, how many, and go from there, that's why I recommend a workshop. And then the next item, I don't know if I could do it now for the fences, I was recommending the same thing, if we could put together a workshop the same way for the fences, because there's so many scenarios around the village. One that was brought up to me by a resident that just didn't rip into me, but he was pretty upset because they had an existing privacy fence that was existing, and it was in disrepair. But once and it was conforming, it would be conforming to the new ordinance. The problem is, once you would remove it to repair it, requires a permit. Now that requires a survey, and he says, you know, it could cost me over $1,000 just to get a survey. Something's been here for 20 years. I gotta repair it and then pay now, and it's conforming. It's not in a location that would be in a front that would be non-conforming, existing, and obviously go to ZBA or not be able to put it back up again. So, that's like just one of the items that I, you know, say put on this workshop. Maybe we could put some language together for existing privacy fences that are in a conforming location, should be able to maybe be re-permitted without making them spend money on a boundaries line. You could even put a condition on it, like we did before with them, with the letter from the neighbor, that they're okay with it along that property line. It's just something I'm throwing out, the reason I'm looking for a workshop. The other one is there's so many, when I drive around the village to look for different scenarios, a lot of them I'll see a driveway going, you know, to the garage in the rear of the property, and it's right on the property line. If somebody could put a 4-foot fence all the way down their property line on the side of a house, so when they put the fence on that property line, you'll get somebody that drives up the drive, and I can't open my doors or nothing. We just had one over that went up on Haber Street, and luckily the fence contractor, it was on the corner of Haber and Fairgrove, and this house next door where the Sparks lived, I asked him, I said, when you do this on this side yard, I met with the contractor out there, are you gonna be running right along there? He goes, no, we're staying in line with the house, so it won't interfere. This is great, that's great. But again, I couldn't make them do that the way that ordinance is written right now. So there's a lot of different scenarios where you'll have a backyard be the whole side yard to another person, or almost a front yard. What do we do with those? So that's why I'd like to see a workshop, and then once we come together, we could actually maybe have Karen do illustrations of these scenarios.
Conversely to the fence line driveway thing,
Yes.
why can't they just move the driveway over? I mean, you're
You
basically
won't,
saying
they're
that,
only, there's just enough room to get a car up there now. Now
I
you're
get
gonna be
it.
rubbing a house
But
and
now
maybe
you're
getting a
saying-
gas meter.
now you're saying that they both have their own property. The
Yes.
property rights in this country are pretty astounding. But now you're saying that the driveway wins, and now that this person's property, they can't have their fence there, so they can enjoy their property because it's theirs, because the neighbor's driveway there. So now this person wins over their property.
And when you do that, they're only gonna have like 3 feet on some of them.
I get
To
it.
squeeze in there, and I
Yeah.
mean, if they can't even maintain
Right.
it at that point, they're hurting themselves. They won't
Yeah.
even, if they have to get a ladder up or something, they're gonna be sitting there, so. I mean, it's just something to look at, but you could put that in an ordinance.
I just think it's gonna cause some arguments, but, my neighbor's fence is on my line too, and I just get used to it. You just don't park right against it. I get it.
Can you open your door?
Yeah, you just move over.
There's enough room that you have a wide enough driveway where you could squeeze and get out.
Right. Or I'd have made my driveway wider.
Well, if that's, you might have a point there, leave it alone, I guess, when the
Right.
people do it, because I've seen one person right now that I know that's trying to do one out of spite.
Right, yeah. Property rights are pretty sacred in this country, so.
Yeah,
it's-
that's true, I mean, it is their property, and our ordinance says you can fence it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can fence it on the property line. So,
So this is all stuff we can review in a workshop, right?
yeah.
Good point.
We'll just keep-
But it's something to be discussed, looked at, that's just like, how do you determine when you got a side yard going up somebody's rear yard? You said you can't have them in a side yard or privacy fence, but that's that guy's rear yard. What do you want to do with those?
Right.
And just like along where yours is along that street, that's a whole side yard. Can we gonna allow them to go there? Are we gonna use the side corners to be a front yard setback? There's a lot to be discussed, so that's why I'm asking for a workshop for that also. That way, everybody can come to one good agreement, and remember, there's gonna be things that we probably all gonna have to give and take a little bit of, whatever wants. But the best thing to do is again, the public health and safety, that's what comes first, so.
Okay, so second Thursday of the month? Is that when we're gonna meet?
Our regular meeting.
Yeah, the regular July meeting.
We gonna do the short-term rental then also?
I think we should probably do one at a time.
Okay.
Which one did you wanna, probably, I'd say, what you guys put in perspective, what you think would be more important to
Well-
have first?
Which one matters to you the most?
Well, right now, the fences have been very challenging for me because, I just had the one where I went out there and I spent over an hour with the contractor, trying to make it work out for him, and that was the one at the corner of Fairgrove and Haber, because he had to get his 20/20 from the street. What he did, he couldn't make the gates swing open, he had to do sliding gates to maintain the clear view. Because the way, if you leave the gate open and say you just leave it open, now he's blocking where he's gonna run out and hit somebody. So, but, that was one, I spent quite a bit of time going around that whole property with that contractor. So, I mean, it's, yes.
Mike, I think if we had a choice, right now, I would say that the fence would be, with the way they're flying into the office
Yeah,
right now.
we
I
have a
think
lot of them coming in.
It would be nice to have that buttoned up.
Yeah, there's not that many, short-term rentals coming up.
No,
that
not
way. So I
right-
think
not
that
right
would
this
probably be
second. That might be an August thing.
That's all right. Was there one other one that we said we were gonna think about?
Property maintenance.
That was tied to the short-term rental.
Okay.
So the
That work?
combination, we'll do the fence one first, and then the property maintenance guidelines and short-term rental.
And then there's the flagpole request from Justin.
That's,
Yeah,
That's
did we
another
cover it?
agenda.
No, we did not.
Okay.
No, it's,
So it came back from council. They'd like to see industrial broke out separate, giving them a 50-foot max pole. And then we probably could have just approved it, but I didn't know what the recommended flag size was for that, so I thought we'd get that back to you, just so we can kick it around for another 6 months. So I just needed that adjustment. I probably should have reached out ahead of time and got it to you before we even got here, so we could have just streamlined it today.
And I can make that proposed change for the July meeting and take a look at that.
Okay, that was the only,
So 50-foot in industrial?
yes.
okay, the next item is Planning Commission fiscal calendar for 2024-25. Any questions or changes?
Chairman, the only change that I had was July 11th, and that was due to the July 4th
Oh, okay.
holiday. So I put it on the next week.
All right, okay. All right, I'll make a motion, we approve the fiscal calendar for 2024-25.
Second.
Second.
Who got there
I think,
first?
I think it was Andrew.
I got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
seconded
First
by
one I heard.
Andrew.
Mr. Hale.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So it passes, Cindy.
Okay, thank you.
Unanimous. Okay, next is planning commission appointments, my favorite thing. For 2024-25. Suggestions, comments, objections?
Crickets.
Everybody's quiet. You guys just want to keep it the way it is?
Is that your motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
The motion,
Andrew's like, I
motion
ain't gotta do
before
anything, I'm
us-
good.
Motion before us is to keep the status quo, so all in favor?
But the only concern I would have before we vote is that Mrs. Fowler cannot deny that position because she's not here.
Oh, that's true.
We have to give her the opportunity to take it or not take it before we vote on it.
Do you want to amend your motion to allow?
We can amend the motion to approve the status quo with the exception of Ms. Fowler, and give her an opportunity later to,
In July.
If she objects.
if she objects. So, anybody want to second that one?
I will.
Mr. Hale seconds the motion to approve the status quo with the exception of Ms. Fowler's secretary position until such time as she can accept or reject.
Does everyone accept? Do you accept the position? Staying as vice chair?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sure you do. And Cindy, I don't think you have an option, do you?
Yes, till April.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that one passed. And now, we come to that place where we adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
I was late. If I could just touch real quick, I know I didn't give a report, but a couple things that had been brought up, not so much from council, but from other people that maybe we want to look into ordinances or addressing how we could address electric vehicles like bikes and scooters not used for ADA purposes on the village sidewalks. Had plenty of complaints, people getting hit, people almost getting hit, people getting run off the, driving in the grass or people's yards, trying to go around people, so I don't know if that's something we may want to look into. I don't know if you've seen anything from other communities.
That wouldn't go into zoning, that would fall under maybe a different realm of municipal code, not zoning.
I think it's almost state law from motorized equipment on sidewalks.
Yeah,
It's just because it's an electric motor, doesn't make it not a motor.
yeah, and I know there's currently, we can't have any wheeled vehicles on the sidewalks within so many blocks of downtown.
You're not allowed to have anything with wheels, basically, other than a wheelchair within the 4 main blocks, and it's been that way for 30 plus
Two
years.
north and south, one east and west,
Yeah.
yeah.
The entire time I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to ride my bike downtown, because Wallen just enforced it.
And the other thing we were planning was, now that we have these food trucks, was the use of portable generators for non-power outages all day long. I don't know if that's something we can look into as a planning, or, I don't know. But it's a couple things that were brought to my attention
That may
that we asked
also not
to
be us.
bring up here and also at council.
Yeah.
What was it?
What? Thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Mr. Parker seconds, all in favor?